Hello, everybody, and welcome to NJ Thrive's Small Business Webinars. Today is Thursday, July 18th, and you are attending one of our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. Welcome. We haven't done this in a long time, so I hope you missed attending these just as we've missed doing these for our audience. Welcome if you're new here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending. This is your first time, then we hope that you attend many more with us. If you have been attending these webinars, then thank you for your continued support. We appreciate it. Go ahead in the chat and let us know where you're from, how you heard about this webinar or NJSBDC, what you're in the business for, anything that you want to share, feel free to network. And make sure when you're sharing your messages, you're sharing it to everyone instead of just the panelists, unless it is specifically for us. All right, so my name is Uzma. I'm a consultant here at NJSBDC. I will be your host for today. NJSBDC stands for America's New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. We are a network and a statewide program powered by the SBA, Small Business Administration, and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with three main things. And those things are no-cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. If you see on the map there, the small logos where you see the SBDC logos, that is where some of our regional centers, well, most of our regional centers are located. And if you are ever wondering where they are, specifically go to njsbdc.com and learn more. All right, so before we get right into the presentation itself, that is what you're here for today. But before that, we will go into some of the things that we have before the presentation. So on the agenda is the headlines that we like to go through, then the presentation and a Q&A session right after. So these are the small business headlines of the week. I will go through them very briefly, and all the links will be shared in the chat. So NJSBDC, this is an announcement from us. NJSBDC Tech Team launches Proposal Writing Assistance Program with support from NJCSIT. Our tech team is one of our specialty teams that we help any business, any New Jersey innovator for small business innovation research and small business technology transfer grants. These are federal grants. They're very competitive, and this program is aimed specifically for that. This new announcement is the launch of Proposal Writing Assistance, which is funded by a $50,000 grant from the CSIT Commission of Science, Innovation, and Technology. If you yourself are interested, or if you know someone that could benefit from this, then go to this website and fill out this form, and we'll connect you with the right consultant. All right, next headline is a press release from NJEDA, New Jersey Economic Development Authority. NJEDA board approves investment of up to $6 million into Newark venture partners. All right, so this is venture fund investment program. As a requirement of the program, they will work to match every dollar, let's see, of New Jersey-based companies. And what is this for? This is to help drive and generate good-paying jobs, strengthen our economy, and further position the Garden State as a premier destination of technology and innovation companies. All right, so NVP leverages partnerships with companies such as Audible, Prudential, RWJ Barnabas, Bank of America, Verizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Those are some of the partnerships. And if you'd like to learn more and contact them, then this is their contact information. Third and final press release from SBA, Small Business Administration. SBA announces $3 million in new grant funding to strengthen cybersecurity infrastructure for emerging small businesses. State government agencies will apply funds to provide critical training to combat cyber threats. All right, so this is the pilot program. These, of course, will be awarded to state agencies, so state agencies can provide training, counseling, and other cybersecurity services. Right? If you'd like to learn more, these are the applications. For state agencies, these applications are not for small businesses. Small businesses can look forward to receiving this kind of help from the state agencies that get approved for the funding. And just an FYI, SBA and NJEDA, you should, as a small business owner, they should be alongside us, alongside NJSBDC, they should be your go-to resources for small business needs. All right, so moving on, things to keep in mind, some rules that we'd like everyone to respect and follow. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A box. If you have any comment or anything that you'd like to share with us, then please put them in the chat. If you'd like to receive the slides that our presenter will be showing throughout the webinar, then those slides are available if you complete a brief survey from us. And this webinar is being recorded, and the link will be shared in the chat and where you can access it if you'd like to view it after. It will be available on our website and our YouTube channel in a couple of days. All right, so we have the topic, 7 ways to beat burnout without quitting your job. And our presenter with us, Beverly Beuermann-King. We've had Beverly before, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago during COVID time. And we had great sessions, multiple webinar sessions with Beverly for internal and external purposes. And we're excited to have Beverly again. So Beverly, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will stop sharing my screen. Go ahead and share yours.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of that. Let me throw this up here. Let's go to the share. And there we go. Give me a thumbs up if that looks okay.
That looks okay.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about burnout. And it's an interesting topic. And again, with the number of people who have signed up, you can tell that it's part of what we're, chatting about and sharing with each other. People feeling exhausted. Are any of you kind of feeling that way? I know I just came off of a 2.5-day board retreat. I'm the president of our Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. I also did a 2.5-day following that with all the chapter leaders across the country. So it's that sense of, there's been a lot on the plate. And so, people talking about being exhausted, life taking over, by work, by all of the responsibilities that we have. So we have difficulty being present. We have difficulty feeling like we are part of life and not having it just pass us by. And so we're going to talk about, what does it mean to deal with burnout? What does burnout even look like? And we're going to talk about what are the strategies, those 7 keys to being able to deal with burnout. I have my Q&A box open. I have my chat box open. So I have all of those things open. If you want to ask questions or if you want to make comments, if you have comments, throw them into the chat. If you have really specific questions, throw those up into the Q&A. I have them both open. So if I'm looking to this side, that's why. A little bit about me that you need to know is my background is from the Canadian Mental Health Association. I am Canadian, and I've been doing this across the country and across the United States since the early 2000s. I started my business in 1995, but the real focus around mental health, resiliency, corporate culture has all been probably since about 2000 and on. So I can answer all kinds of questions. So if you have them, throw them into the chat. So let's get started. We're going to start specifically talking about burnout. And so what do you think? What comes to mind when you think of burnout? What image comes to mind? What definition comes to mind? What do you think of? Now, we can do this in an interactive way. If you have your phones with you, you can take your phone, place it on camera mode, hold it up to that QR code, and that will take you so that you can directly type right onto that slide. So what image, what word, what comes to mind when you think of the word burnout? If you don't have your phone with you, you can also type into the URL, put slido.com. And you can, then you'll need the passcode, which is NJSBDC July. You can type that right in there. And if all that fails, you can throw it right into the chat. And I can see your answers there as well. So any of those 3 ways. So what comes to mind when you think of burnout? I'm seeing up in my Q&A, which is the word stress. I'm seeing on the screen exhaustion. Anything else come to mind? Defeated. I'm seeing in my chat box, defeated, exhausted, all kinds of things. Any images that come to mind? Yeah, it's, certainly health images come to mind for me when I'm thinking of that. I love this loss of interest, loss of desire, loss of, just kind of not being connected, absolutely, overwhelmed. I think all of these things happen, right? Let's see. Definitely, I'm seeing overwhelmed in the chat, ready to give up. Yeah, for me, like an image, it's like kind of throwing your hands up in the air. You can keep typing those. The screen will kind of pass by, but you can still keep putting them there. That is absolutely okay. When I think of burnout, for me, it's about losing our fire, losing our spark, losing our essence, losing the best part of ourselves, our sense of humor, our spirit. And so when we talk about burnout, it's a state of exhaustion. And it's more than just being tired. It's more than just being kind of overloaded, but it's that sense of, fatigue and frustration and feeling unappreciated. It's physical symptoms. It's emotional symptoms. It's our mental health symptoms. And so we see that sense of kind of losing that spark, losing that essence of who we are. Now, what do you think? Here's a question. You can type the answers for this into the chat. But globally, what percentage of the population around the world is experiencing moderate to severe burnout? So I'm going to give you a hint. It's going to be, I'd give you kind of narrow it down a little bit for you. But is it 79%, 40%, 22%, or 15% of people around the world will experience moderate to severe? So I'm seeing lots of 79s come up on the screen. Anything else? I'm seeing more 79s, lots of 79s. Good. And again, you can make sure it says to everyone, so that way everyone can see the answers. I'm seeing a kind of a mixture of both in here. 40%, 40%. All right. What do we think? Well, we know that, from our research, about 40% of people from around the world will experience moderate to severe. But 79% of us are going to experience at least some of the symptoms. And now that was from a research done by O.C. Tanner. The numbers are going to fluctuate a little bit country to country. They're going to fluctuate a little bit from industry to industry. Some industries are going to have much higher rates of burnout. Some industries are going to have much lower rates of burnout. And so the idea is, though, that many of us are experiencing at least some of the symptoms of burnout. So like I said, 40%, probably kind of give or take. Now that's about 15% higher than what it was prior to the pandemic. Now, for many of us, we're like, the pandemic, that was long ago. But what we're still experiencing is the residual impact of that pandemic. And so depending on where you are around the country, again, different views around the pandemic, but we know that it had an impact on our mental health, on our ability to have energy, our productivity, all of these things. So what do we know? Well, why are we struggling? And I think we struggle for a number of reasons. Lots of things get in the way. Many of us have all of these challenges. And if you feel like that there seems to be more challenges, more things that we're dealing with, and not just projects or not just to-dos, but things that seem to be more bigger, changes that are more impactful that we're having to deal with. And it seems to have eroded our ability to bounce back, our ability to move forward. I think we also struggle because many of us don't have anything left in the tank. And what I mean by that is we feel like we've given it all our energy and our anything that we have, but we haven't been able to put more energy back in. And so we feel like we're running on empty. And if you feel like you're running on empty, you can give me a yes in the chat if that resonates with you in any kind of way. And then the last reason, I think, we're feeling resentful because we feel like we're missing out. We're more jaded, more disillusioned by everything that's going on. We hear so much in our media and so much in the news and things that are going on around the world. And we're starting to feel that sense of, is there anything good to celebrate? It's just a matter of time before things go badly. And so we feel that sense of disillusionment, which leads to burnout. I'm seeing lots of yeses in the chat. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about burnout. We are not the same people that we were prior to the pandemic. We've changed. We've experienced so much more. Relationships have changed. The way we do our job has changed. Our expectations have changed. Who we are, what we want from life has changed. Many of us have reevaluated what we'll put up with. One of the programs that I do is around dealing with difficult people. And, I'm seeing a lot more requests for that because we're not willing to tolerate all of the things that we did prior to the pandemic. So we've changed. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about what are those keys? What are those things that we need to do in order to prevent burnout? I'm going to talk about our start, stop, and continue. What do we need to evaluate? And then any questions that you have, you can throw them into the chat or the Q&A, either one of those, and I will answer them as we go. All right. This is a part of a much bigger graphic. You can use the QR code again. You can use your phone, and that will take you to where this infographic is. But it talks about what are the 15 danger signs when it comes to burnout. And so you can grab it, you can print it, you can use it, you can share it with your friends, your family members, your colleagues, your coworkers. You can use it as points of discussion within your team to talk about, okay, where are we? What are the things that are impacting us the most? And so in 2019, the World Health Organization classified burnout as an occupational disease, which is really interesting because we often don't think of it as being that important, but it is that important. And so it is occupational. It is related to work. We have lots of things going on in our personal lives, but this is the impact that it has on work and the causes that it has from work situations. So they categorize all of these symptoms into 3 categories. Exhaustion, so anything related to that physical and mental kind of symptoms related to exhaustion. Futility. Now, futility is not a word that we use very often, but it's about being cynical. It's a lack of production. It's a lack of being able to focus. And then we have avoidance, that sense of dread. Could be absenteeism, could be presenteeism. We see all kinds of things related to that. So let me break these down a little bit further. Okay, so first one that's on that list of 15, needing more time to get things done. And that's hard because many of us, we're beating ourselves up over this, or we have these expectations for other people on our work team. Why is it taking you so long to get things done? Even simple emails. Any of you had that? Like sometimes I sit there trying to put an email together. I'm like, this should not be this difficult. But when you have so many things on your plate, that ability to focus, that ability to get things done, get them done quickly has been eroded. All right. Even lack of focus. Like I said, sometimes you find yourself kind of wandering, having trouble to stay focused, especially when we're in meetings. Sometimes we glaze over. Creativity, being able to brainstorm and problem solve, thinking of new ways to get things done. When we are dealing with burnout, we have that lack of ideas, that lack of creativity. It takes more energy. We don't have the energy. We're tired, we're worn out, we're fatigued. And so simple things drain our energy very, very quickly. That lack of enthusiasm. Maybe it's a lack of interest or lack of enthusiasm for doing the job, doing the things that we used to do. Those things that used to give us joy. I don't know if I really want to do that anymore. Any of you have sleep issues, can't fall asleep, can't stay asleep, feel like you've dreamt the whole night through. So it's disrupted in any kind of way. Forgetfulness. Now, that's not just part of old age. Sometimes we just blame it on getting older, but when we have so many things on our mind, when we are struggling, when we don't have any extra energy in the tank, we can be more forgetful. We walk into a room and we can't remember why we were going there, or we phone somebody up and we can't remember what it is that we wanted to talk about. Control. Not feeling like you have control in your life. Being told what to do and how to do it, and not having decision-making authority, and just what's going to happen next. Part of that's the whole future, like what changes are coming our way, and not feeling like you have any say in the matter. What we're also seeing is where people are using alcohol and drugs as a way of moderating, medicating, managing when it comes to all of these issues. I talked about the program on dealing with difficult people, and part of it, I think it has to do directly with this, is that we are tired out, we are worn out, we are cynical, that sense of futility, so we become more irritable, more pessimistic, more jaded, disillusioned. We look for who we can blame, that sense of distrust. And so there may be more complaining and blaming and finger pointing and backstabbing. We often don't think of burnout as having a physical component, but it absolutely does. And it could be, upset stomach, constipation, diarrhea, like all of the gastrointestinal stuff. It could be headaches, the migraines, the tension headaches, the heart racing, pounding, blood pressure going up. If you have diabetes where your sugars may be all over the place, not being manageable and under control. And so it does have an impact. Satisfaction. We're just blah. We're not satisfied with the different areas of our life. We feel emotionally down. Things may be exciting, but we can't rise to the occasion. We may feel isolated. Feeling like there's a lack of support, that nobody understands. There's nobody that I can talk to. And loneliness right now is a huge issue. And so we see all of these things happening, and they're warning signs. And so when I said 40% of us are going to experience the moderate to severe, you're going to have more of those symptoms. 79% of us are going to experience at least some of those symptoms. And I can see, when days feel really busy and jam-packed, or I've had no time for myself, I can see where those take hold, and I become grumpy. I become more irritable. I become more jaded. I see the negative and the difficult as opposed to the beauty and the spectacular. I'm seeing something very true in the chat box here. Can you see those as being symptoms within your colleagues, your coworkers, in yourself? When we look at the research around burnout right now, we're saying 53% of people are experiencing, that dread, even before the day starts sometimes. A third of us are saying things that didn't used to bother us are now getting on our nerves. And if you feel that way, little things are now poking at you. And half of us say that we just don't have anything left to give. There's nothing left in the tank. And I know I'm kind of talking a lot about kind of what is burnout. We haven't got to the keys yet, but I think it's important because it's not just, because it's kind of like the word depression. Sometimes we'll say that we're depressed, but we don't necessarily mean depression. Sometimes we use the word burnout, but we're not really talking about burnout. So I really want to make it clear of what makes burnout such an important issue within our workplaces. Because we see where it impacts productivity. We see where people are more likely to take time off, where they're more likely to end up in the hospital, where people are less confident about who they are and the value that they bring, and that people are more likely to leave as opposed to actually dealing with it. All right, so I talked about the symptoms. I want to talk about these stages because it just doesn't go from feeling great to being burnt out. It is this kind of these stages. And even though there's 12 stages, you don't necessarily go all the way from 1 to 12. We bounce around, we skip over, we come back to. So we see where people have this compulsion to prove themselves. So we become more ambitious. We try to buckle down and get things done. We work harder. We take more on, trying to kind of meet the expectations that we see. And because we're trying to get things done and we're trying to work harder, often we stop taking care of ourselves. I know that's a big one for me where, I would stay awake longer. I would get up earlier, just trying to get things done. I wasn't going for my daily walks. I wasn't working out in the same way. And so I can see where, it's insidious. It slowly increases. We can't see the root of the problem because we're so busy trying to deal with all of the things that need to be done that we can't pinpoint what's happening. We may get more emotional. We start kind of feeling blunted. We don't get excited about things. Everything kind of feels gray. And then we start denying that there's any problems. I'm getting through. Everything is okay. And we start to see real things happening with people isolating, with people feeling like they have no hope, no energy, feeling worthlessness, that sense of I can't get anything done. Everybody else can do it. Why can't I? We start to feel like we don't exist. That depersonalization, we become detached from the people around us, detached from the work that we're doing. We feel empty. We feel like life has no meaning. And it may lead to suicidal thoughts. And so the severity of all of this. Let's see, what am I seeing in the chat? It causes coworkers to quit and then the rest of us to do more. Absolutely. And it becomes this cycle, doesn't it? Where, we don't have enough people to get the job done. We have to buckle down and do more. We feel like there's less meaning in our life. We're trying to do more and more. We're not putting energy back in, and the cycle continues. So it is severe. It is something that we need to deal with. And if we don't do something about it now, it's going to continue. When we look at previous pandemics, we know that it has a health impact 2 years after it's completely gone away. We're not quite there yet, but we're seeing where it ripples out and it grows and it grows. All right. Now, I've talked about the doom and the gloom side. I want to talk about the resiliency side, because there are things that we can do and there are things that our organizations can do. Today is more about what can we do, but there are definitely things that our organizations should be doing in order to help support people, in order to minimize the impact of burnout on who we are. So I want to talk about resiliency. And so back in your app again, what does it mean to be resilient? What image comes to mind? What definition comes to mind? What do you think of when you think of that word resiliency? Again, you can use the phone. You should actually still be on it if you were doing that previously. You can type it into the URL if you want to. Type slido.com and put in the password that will let you in, or throw it into the chat. Either one of those ways. But what comes to mind when you think of the word resiliency? What image comes to mind? What definition comes to mind? What do you think of? Being calm. I like that. Standing tall with your head high. Oh, I like that too. Keep pushing, fighting, never giving up. Overcome and pushing through. Able to keep on going. Yeah, these are great. Staying strong. A rubber band. That's a great image. Let's see. Letting go. All of these kinds of things. I think, resiliency is what, being able to get to the other side. I'm saying, accept not everything can be done by you. Perfect. Let's see, relying on your support to make it through. Again, I love the fact that you put support in there, because that's going to be an important part of this. Good. So we see these different things happening. Now, when I think of resiliency, for me, how many of you used to play with those little wee hard rubber balls when you were in public school? The kind that you would throw up against the brick wall and then they would bounce all over the place and you would spend your entire recess chasing them. For me, that's kind of like what resiliency is. It's that ability. We hit the wall. Now, when we talk about the rubber ball and bouncing, we go through this. We have all of these changes and challenges that we face, and we come out the other side. Now, we may not be the same person. Sometimes we talk about bouncing, but bouncing doesn't mean that we aren't changed. It doesn't even mean that we're on the same path that we thought we were going to be on. And so it's being able to respond in a way that allows you to move forward. The healthy ways to take that experience and to move through it, despite of all of the changes, the challenges, the difficulties that we go through. We have been resilient from the get-go. And so part of this is understanding that it's not just to get through a particular challenge. When we talk about resiliency, it's not just to get through, but it's to also get through with a sense of humor and with our spirit and with that sense of strength. Because we know people who get through and they lose all of that and they're changed and they're not who they want to be. So let's talk about these priorities. The things that help us to do this. What is number one? Number one is know what your priorities are. Know what are the things that really matter when it comes to dealing with burnout, because I think sometimes we lose sight of our priorities. We lose sight of what matters. We don't make decisions based on our priorities. And so I talk about this kind of wheel of life, or the key elements of life, and you may have seen them in other ways. They're kind of like these spokes on a wagon wheel. And it's things such as, how do we spend our time and energy related to family and friends and our career and health? Often health is one of those things that gets kind of put by the wayside. But health is, am I eating right, sleeping right, exercising? What am I doing for personal growth? How am I learning, expanding? Spirituality, whatever that means for you, fun and relaxation. Now, early in my career, I used to have fun, relaxation, and romance all as one spoke. And people said, no, fun and relaxation I get, but the romance, it's on a completely different one. So what does that look like? Community is volunteer. Your volunteer time. How do you reach out and support? And then physical environment is another thing that we often forget that takes up time and energy, but it's the chores that need to be done. I grew up on a farm. So chores, it's like, it's the laundry. It is the, car maintenance. It's the shoveling snow. I told you I lived in Canada. It's all of those things that need to get done that pile up over time. And so what does that all look like? So your priorities, if you were to map it out according to where you spend your time and energy, what would that look like? And are you spending your time and energy on those things that are truly a priority? Now, you have to have a job. You need to spend, time doing some of those chores and things. And so you can't just get rid of them. But are you being purposeful? You have 168 hours in that week. Maybe during the week, you don't spend time on maybe family or growth or community or spirituality. Maybe it's on the weekends. Maybe it changes from season to season. Balance is not about equal. Balance means that I'm spending my time and energy on the things that are important to me. So how are you making decisions? Because balance is an activity that you continually engage in based on, the circumstances. And we continually adjust it. And what it looks like yesterday is not going to be what it looks like today. But it's about spending your time. So this is one that I put together when I was looking at how I was spending my time and energy. And so my friend time, I want it to grow. I want to spend more time and energy with my friends. Am I spending time on my health? Again, I would think right now that that's probably needs some adjustment. I need to do some, especially as I go into the summer. There is a quote that I absolutely love that says, "How thin can I spread myself before I no longer exist?" How thin can I spread myself before I no longer exist? Because sometimes we spend our time and energy on those things, but we're not spending any time and energy on ourselves. Part of dealing with burnout is making sure that you're making active decisions on how you spend your time and your energy. And even if you can't decrease the amount of time at work, can you find other ways of bringing that joy and energy back in? Can you piggyback? Can you ask for help? Can you delegate it off? Can you simplify when things are really stressful? All right, key number 2. Are you creating boundaries? And what does that look like? How do you create boundaries? Any of you feel like you're on Groundhog Day? You're running on empty? You get caught up in that wake, work, sleep, repeat cycle? Well, we know that the wake, work, sleep, repeat cycle, that just leads to burnout. And so we need to get off that treadmill. We need to change things up. How can we do that in a way that is going to help us? I'm seeing yeses and comments in the chat based on that. All right. What I'm seeing right now is what I call the hustle culture. And we're getting caught up in that hustle culture. That hustle culture is when we get up in the morning. First thing we do, what do? You should check your messages. You go to the bathroom, you check to see what else has happened. And you're constantly feeling like you're in these meetings and you're scarfing down your meals in between all of this time, this time. Or you're watching, a movie with your family, but you're still connected. It's that hashtag constantly connected, hashtag no days off. And we know that when we get caught up in that harder, faster, stronger, every single day kind of thinking and being, again, I'm going to step into this, but for many of us, that's how we've been taught, that working hard is the only way that we can be successful, that if we're not putting effort in every single moment, then we're not really working. We're not really trying hard enough. And if you're not working overtime, then you're hardly working, especially as for many of you who are launching. I saw in the chat earlier that you're launching a new business, or you're in the midst of starting up a new business, or you are the owner of the business, that, hey, if you're not working overtime, if you're not putting something into it every single day, then why are you doing it, right? That overworking is the only way that we can be successful. Now, we know that working hard is important, but working yourself to the point of exhaustion, where you don't even have a second to yourself, well, that's the recipe for burnout. Puts our body in that state of fight and flight, in that we can't keep it going in that kind of way. It's absolutely a race to the bottom. So we need to talk about it. What's bringing that sense about? What is causing us to feel that we have to keep on pushing? And here's where it comes to the workplace. And especially if you're a leader, you need to have these conversations, because we know that these are the contributors to burnout. This is from Jennifer Moss, MOSS, and she talks about what are the key contributors to burnout. Well, unsustainable workloads. Are we realistic about what somebody can achieve in the time that they're at work? Are we expecting people to be connected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Did we ask people to step up and do the work of more than one person, especially through the pandemic, yet we haven't hired people to replace that? That became the standard. What is the appropriate load to stay healthy, to get done in a typical day? Do you have control over what you do and how you do it? Are you saying your thank yous to people? Are people feeling recognized for their efforts being put in? When we know that what we know from our research is that when somebody is not being recognized for their accomplishments, their time, their energy, their effort, it increases their risk of burnout by 490%. Do you have a culture of appreciation? Again, I saw lots of information in the chat around community. Absolutely, having a supportive community around you decreases your risk for burnout. How are you creating that community? How are you tapping into your community, to your supports, to those people that can lift you up, that you can connect with? Is there fairness in your culture, in the way people are hired, in the way work is distributed? And then, are you the right person in the right job right now? Do you have the right people in the right job right now? They may have been the right person, but are they the right person right now? And so we need to be addressing these. We need to have conversation around these, because we know when, example, workloads are unsustainable, we burn people out, they leave, and people have to pick up the slack, which just becomes this rotation all the way through. So how do we deal with some of this? Because I see in the chat, I don't know how to stop though. Well, part of it is we need to stop glamorizing overwork. How are you doing? Oh my gosh, it is so busy. I have had so much on my plate. I haven't had a moment to myself. We almost wear it like a badge of honor. Lack of sleep, lack of exercise, lack of quiet time. All that really is a recipe for burnout. So we need to stop glamorizing overwork. And we know this, right? And I love this. But what's stopping you from challenging some of this stuff? Our beliefs. We don't want to let the team down. This is only temporary. We need to tackle some of those beliefs. One of the beliefs that we have is that you have to go hard or go home. I grew up in a sports family. My two boys played high-level hockey. I run my own business, so there's lots of beliefs that go into this. But that go hard or go home, give it 110%. Well, you can't give 110%. And in fact, organizations that were working at peak capacity, those were the organizations that really struggled throughout the pandemic, because there was no room to deal with the emergency. People didn't have anything left to deal with all of the changes. So what is the right level? What is that level where people can be creative, where they have time to think about what's happening, that they're not going from meeting to meeting to meeting? And if you find yourself going from meeting to meeting, when do you actually get the stuff done? Likely you have to stay late. You have to work on the weekends. That's not sustainable. Other beliefs. One of the ones that my dad used to say is that you can sleep when you're dead. Rest and relaxation are for the weak, right? Rise and grind. All of these things, lead to us with these beliefs that, that we're not good enough, that we're not trying hard enough. So what are your personal beliefs? What did you grow up with? What's ingrained into your organization? What culture are you creating for the people who work for you? What are your beliefs about success? Is that you should always be hustling? That if you take a moment of downtime, that somehow you're not trying hard enough? And what are the fears? What are the fears? If I take my foot off the gas, if I stop for just a moment, I look at myself, and again, this is not, I do this all the time, but I still hold on to these beliefs, and one of them was, for 25 years, I've been pushing the ball uphill to talk about mental health and resiliency and culture. And then the pandemic hits and leaders stepped up and they wanted to talk about mental health, resiliency, and culture. And so I was busy. I was doing, virtual. All of a sudden I went from in-person to virtual presentations, just like we're doing today. And I could do 3 and 4 presentations a day. And I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to let people down. I was afraid that if I took my foot off the gas, that my business would go back to that pushing that ball uphill. And so I was saying yes, and I wasn't taking time off because we only thought it was going to last for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. You remember thinking that? It's only going to last till the fall. It's only going to last till the next spring. And so I found myself where I wasn't taking care of myself. And then for me, I stepped into this role of president. I'm like, oh, okay, like I want to do this. I want to do the best I can. And I'm juggling all these balls. And it occurred to me, when I was kind of done on Tuesday, that I really have not been listening to my own message because it's insidious and it grows. And so if I want to make sure that I don't end up being completely burnt out where I can't give what I want to give, I need to make sure that I'm taking my downtime when I can take that downtime. I have to watch my fears because they get in the way. Your dad is so right. Yeah, absolutely. We think about these things and we have them ingrained. Old school thinking. Yeah, but it's hard to get past those. And it's interesting because some of our younger generations that are coming in, they don't have that kind of thinking. But we can look at them and go, well, they're hardly trying. They're hardly working. They're not putting enough into it. But maybe they have the absolute right idea. Or maybe they're better at putting up boundaries and setting their priorities. There we go. Old school thinking. Dad said we would never be rich, although we would sleep every night. Absolutely. And so what are those priorities? What are those boundaries? Superhuman. This is one that gets me. I don't know. I need to be the best. It's most of the time it's in direct competition with myself, but, I want to be the best mom. I want to be the best, employer. I want to be the best president. I want to be the best, I want to have it all put together. And then often enoughness gets in the way. We struggle with this enoughness. Am I good enough? Am I thin enough? Am I successful enough? Have I tried hard enough? Have I gotten enough done today? Did I spend enough time with my family? Did I spend enough time doing my work? Did I spend any time on myself? And so we need to be careful that enoughness doesn't get in the way. And then we also, that it's that feeling that it's not okay not to be okay, but it absolutely is. We need to feel safe in speaking up. We need to feel safe to say, I need to step back for a moment. We need to make sure that it's safe to set the boundaries. So what are your boundaries? And I've been thinking about this because I need to change my boundaries. And so one of my boundaries may be I'm not going to do any work after 6 o'clock because I'm notorious for, my husband doesn't get home until later. So I continue working, even though I probably should put a hard stop on the day, especially now. During the summer when meetings are a little bit less. Maybe one of my boundaries is going to be to not start work until I go for a walk. Because it's only 15 steps down from my bedroom. I'm just going to check a few emails, just going to get a couple of things done. And then I realize that the whole day has gone by. Maybe it's no scrolling through family time. Or when it's me and my husband together at night, then that's all it's going to be. I'm not going to try to multitask and get things done. I'm going to try to be a little bit more realistic with my to-do list. How many of you are really good at putting like 90 things on your to-do list? So let me know in the chat, what are some of your boundaries? What are some of the things that you want to kind of keep an eye on? I work from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. and I have issues with boundaries. Yeah. So we need to set what do we want our life to be like and be more purposeful. I love this. No client calls after 5 p.m. No phones in the bedroom. Limit your to-do list. 3 meetings a day, not bringing work home. Don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. These are great. We need to know there is always tomorrow. Yeah, because a lot of the times we set up these expectations, but they're my expectations of what I should be doing. Good. Reduce the workload. Building white space. And I'm getting better with that. So I used to say, okay, well, that meeting is going to take 15 minutes. So, I can get right into that next meeting. Now I look at it and go, the meeting may only take 15 minutes, but it's going to take me an hour because of that meeting to get the stuff done that I said I was going to do. And so I'm getting better at building buffer. I'm getting better at saying, I really need some time just to think and to create and to do. And so I'm going to put in a no meeting zone so that I can catch up on that, or I can think, deeper about these issues. I love this. Work is 24/7. Yeah, especially as an entrepreneur, you're always thinking, you're always looking for ideas, but we also need to have that downtime, that white space to think. I put this graphic up. This is about control, and you've seen lots of things like this probably on LinkedIn or the internet and stuff. I posted this at the beginning of the pandemic, one very similar to this, and it went viral. I had people from Australia and South Africa posting and sharing, liking, commenting. I thought that's really strange, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, so people need to see this thing. I posted it 6 months later, and the same thing happened. I posted it 6 months later again, and the same thing happened. That last version was up to something like 16 or 17,000 like shares and comments, which blows my mind because it's not like we haven't seen it. But I think what happens is that when we're in the middle of change and challenge and chaos, we need to be reminded. We need to be reminded to look at the things that we can control and not the things that we can't control. I was dealing with a huge issue and I was totally focused on the things that I can't control, what that other person was doing. It kept me awake at night. It invaded my dreams. It invaded my relationships. It changed the way that I spoke about things. And I had to sit back and go, I can't do anything about that. What I can do is, how am I going to respond? How am I going to take care of myself? What is it that I'm going to focus on? And when I did that, again, we know this, right? It changes the way that we feel. It changes the way that we step into those situations. And so are we focused in on the right things? Whew, that was number 2. So what are our priorities? What are the boundaries that we need to set? Number 3 is, are we focused in on self-care? What am I doing to take care of myself? If we're looking at how do we avoid falling into that pit of burnout, we need to make sure that we spend the time and energy focused in on taking care of ourselves. Now, I love the fact the Olympics are coming up, and professional athletes absolutely know this, that it's not just about the workout, but it's also about the recovery time, that you can't continue to push and push and push without that recovery time. And so we need to learn from professional athletes. What are we doing to take it from way up here to down here? So what are we doing that's going to help us to bring it down? Let's see. Are you prioritizing rest? I love this. I put my phone on sleep mode so that you're not disturbed. I love that, right? Because it is that focusing on rest. Resting is more than taking a nap. Resting is, how do we give ourselves space to daydream, to do nothing? And so there's different kinds of rest. There's active rest, which is, allowing you to like lie down and just let your circulation improve and that kind of stuff. There's passive, where we're sleeping, where we're napping. Mental rest, where we, step away from our desk sensory, where we shut things off. Like many of you talked about shutting off your electronics. Creative rest, where you find something that is pleasureful, that gives you that sense of joy. It might be nature, it might be playing around on creating something online. And emotional rest, where we let go of our the feelings that we have. We express them, we let them go, as opposed to keeping them all pent up. Spiritual rest, it's about connecting to that spiritual side, those things that are outside of who we are. Social rest, sometimes we want to just disconnect from people and just be by ourselves and think for a little bit. Let's see. I'm a small business owner, and a lot of these recommendations are not possible for me to follow. And so I'm going to challenge that thinking, Catherine. And Lisa says she agrees. I'm a small business owner. I am 100% responsible for my business. I do everything from the tech to the creative to the delivery. It's 24/7 thinking about my business. If I let it be all consuming. And like I said, 25 years of pushing the ball uphill. We have the ability, and many people have stepped into their own business because they want more control. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they, they have their ideas and they want to have control and they want to be able to create the life that they want to live. But I think often we let go of that, thinking about the woulds and the coulds and the shoulds. Can you take 5 minutes to sit, on the front porch or out by a tree or just in nature, just to absorb what's happening around? Can you shut it down? Because again, our expectations, what if I shut it down 5 minutes earlier? What is possibly going to happen? You're always going to have things to do. You're always going to have a to-do list. There are some things that you have to get done. There are some emergencies that have to, that step up. But is everything an emergency? Is everything a priority? So we need to challenge some of that. Some of you are saying you agree with that. Okay, schedule exercise and rest on the calendar as a meeting. And so here's a great example of the white space and the challenges. If you don't block it in as a priority, it's not going to be a priority. And so I like that you schedule it. You put it in there. What are the choices that we're making? Some things can be changed, some things can't be changed, but it is about being about challenging some of our beliefs about this. If you don't make time for wellness, oh, I love this. And I've seen this before, so I love this. If you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your disease. And it's actually, and I've also seen, if you don't make time for wellness, you'll be forced to make time for illness. Our clients are 24/7. Try event business. I'm not quite sure what the last part means. Yeah, all of our businesses can be 24/7. How can you step away, even if it's for moments at a time, in order to put some time and energy back in? All right, sleep. Sleep is not a luxury. It's an absolute business necessity. Are you sleeping long enough? Are you getting the right quality sleep? Are you prioritizing it? Okay, here's a question for you. What do you think the answer is? What is the absolute easiest way to break your stress response? What do you think? In the chat, let me know. What is the easiest way to break your stress response? I do get enough sleep. That's something that you do make a priority. I dip your face in cold water. That would be easy. Working out, even easier than working out. Good. I love it. The answer is breathing. Some of you got the answer there. I'm seeing Todd putting in there as well. Something simple that we can do doesn't take you away from your desk. It's something that you can just take a couple of moments to do that deep breathing. It helps to bring more oxygen in. It helps you to be more creative. It can lower your blood pressure. It can quiet your mind when you're having those racing thoughts. It's a absolute easy way to recharge. And there's all kinds of different breathing strategies there that you can use. This one is the box breathing, where you go in for 4, you hold it for 4, you release for 4, and you hold it for 4. You can do where you breathe in from the bottom, you feel the middle, you feel the top. You release the top, you release the middle, you release the bottom. You can do alternate breathing, alternate nostril breathing, so many different kinds. But the idea is to bring more oxygen in and to slow things down, to quiet your mind, to help get that focus back. I do this when I am checking my emails. I can do this when I'm driving, when I'm, in my car. It's something very easy that I can piggyback on other things. I can do it when I'm in a meeting and nobody does. Now, if I do the alternate nostril, people are going to notice. If I do the 3-part and I'm doing this, they're going to notice. But I can do that box breathing and I can still be 100% paying attention, but allowing my body to relax. It's finding those ways of recharging, those ways of bringing energy back in. I love it. Turning your cell phone off is a way of recharging. Maybe it's reading a good book. All of those things can help you to recharge. For me, it's my gardens. When I feel like my head is spinning, or in the middle of the afternoon when my head is too full and I'm getting tired out and worn out, just going outside and walking around my gardens and noticing what plants are in bloom, which ones have died off, what weeds need to be picked. That happens sometimes too, but it does allow me just to get out of my headspace for just a moment. So what are some of those simple things? This is from research done by very successful leaders. So when they looked at what do very successful leaders do? What are the routines that they have in place? What are the things that they do to increase their efficiency? What we know is that very successful leaders, they embrace the morning. They start that day off by, focusing in on themselves. It's not kind of doing the, hitting the snooze button going, oh, I have to go to work again. They make use of that morning time. They look forward to it. They put good food in, they drink enough water, they move their body. Now, move your body doesn't mean you have to go and do, 45-minute workout, but they're doing something to bring movement into their life. They give themselves some time to think through, maybe in the morning. So that might be how you embrace your morning, through a meditation or writing out your to-do list, or it's time throughout their calendar, their day, where they have time to think about the business, not just being in the business, but being able to think about the business. And we hear that all the time, that you need time to be able to think, to shut it down. They map out their day. They have a plan for how the day is going to go, but they're also flexible, knowing that emergencies could come along the way. Successful leaders make it a point of finding one thing every day that they're looking forward to. What is that one thing that you're looking forward to every day? Now, I noticed back up in my chat, somebody said that they are watching this webinar at Starbucks. That's a great way. That's that one thing that, hey, I'm going to change it up a bit. That's my one thing that I'm going to do for myself. They look at progress, not perfection. What's the viable thing that you can get off your desk? They look for ways of putting energy back in. And again, like I said, just going for a walk is a way that I put that energy back in. Successful leaders and entrepreneurs, they wrap up their day. And I love that if I look back in my chat, somebody said like at 5:00, they close the office door. How do you wrap up your day? What's the end of your day look like? I've gotten in the bad habit of just kind of walking away from my desk. But what I find is that I really need to tidy it up and organize it so that when I start the next day, it feels like I am starting, not just continuing from the day before. So for me, it's kind of like a sense of organization. Things have their place. My projects are ready to go. I know what I'm working on, and I can end it knowing that I'm ready to kind of jump back in the next day. So how do you wrap up your particular day? What do you do to unplug? To turn it off, to detox in that way? Whether it's your phone or the TV, to step away from your computer. And then are you focusing in on getting a good sleep? Because successful leaders, successful entrepreneurs make sleep and rest a priority. Let's move on to the next key. Number 4, Number 4 are, what are your energy drainers? Let's talk a little bit about that. So we're going to talk about how do you boost your energy. Part of that is understanding what sucks the life energy from you. So what are your energy drainers? So back on that slide, let me know, what are some of the things that you would put in there as an energy drainer? What sucks the life energy from you? Again, you can let me know in the chat. You can let me know on the screen. What are some of those things that suck the life energy from you? Negative people. Absolutely. What else sucks the life energy from you? Prepping for meetings. And then, when you put all that work in, and I just went, as soon as you said that, Eric, I absolutely agree. When you've done all of the work for this meeting to either meet with a customer or a client or somebody else, and then it gets changed, it feels like a huge letdown. Thinking about all the things that have to get accomplished. Yeah, because we have this kind of running tally of things that need to be done. Bad news. Yeah, when we hear, and we hear it, we see it, it's happening all the time. Micromanagers, people who are trying to, tell you what to do and how to do it, not giving you that autonomy for doing your job. Each day is a new chance. There's a business that there is a business that did not make it. So I am grateful. Yeah. Gratitude is a way of, counterbalancing this. People who are not closers, who don't get things done, who start all kinds of things but never finish. Dealing with co-occurring mental health, substance use, financial housing issues of one family. All kinds of things that can happen. It feels like, being hit over and over and over again. Lack of independence. Indecisiveness. Yeah. For me, if I was to look on there, I would probably put energy drainers, not getting a good night's sleep. That sucks my life energy out. People who don't do the things that they say they're going to do. People who are in it for themselves and not for the team. That tends to kind of suck my life energy away. People who are negative and difficult and pessimistic, I'm seeing that there. When we get stuck and it's not up to us to move the project forward, we're waiting on other people. Yeah, we can feel all of that. And as soon as people say it, you can just kind of feel that energy. So we're going to talk a little bit about, how do we bring that energy back? How do we manage that energy? Oh, I'm seeing energy drainer, lack of communications, negativity, and lack of accountability. So it is about energy management. It is about fatigue management. And so you're going to see these things, and you've heard these all before: eating right, sleeping right, exercising, taking breaks, drinking enough water, getting physical activity, connecting to family and friends, having hobbies. We've heard lots of that stuff before. And I think, post-pandemic, moving forward in the world that we're in, I think it is really about getting back to the basics. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I stiff? Do I need to get up and move around? What's my sweet spot for the number of hours that I need to sleep? We need to know what kinds of things boost our energy. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I want to spend more time on these micro practices, because I get it. Because it's sometimes, how do I fit this stuff in? That's a real burning question. And we saw it already. So I want you to think about these things, and I'm going to break them down. So in the chat, I'm going to ask, what is something that you can do if you have 1 minute? Let's say somebody's late for a meeting, or you got something done quicker than what you thought, or you're in between activities or to-dos or projects. What is one thing that you can do when you only have 1 minute? Smile, meditate. Good. Those are great. Doctor said you drink too much water. Okay, so you're flushing your system out too much. And that can create all kinds of problems too. So finding the right amount, breathing, saying thank you, doing breathing exercises. Those are all great. Finding something to appreciate. I love that. What can you do if you only have 5 minutes? So let me know. You've got 5 minutes. Now, somebody is late for a meeting. They're not showing up, in between projects again. What are some things that you can do? I love it. Take a short walk, look out the window, call a loved one, meditate. Good. Eat a piece of chocolate. Oh, you and I are on the same page, Catherine. I love that. Now I have to kind of cut back on my chocolate, I think. Looking at nature through the window, getting coffee slash water slash something to drink. Okay. Stretching. Absolutely. Those are great things to do. Okay, now you have 10 minutes. This is bigger. Somebody cancels on you. A meeting gets canceled like we just talked about. Um, you something on your to-do list, you got it done, you've got this blank spot. What would that look like? Say good morning to coworkers. Yeah, do a walk around. That's perfect. Eat an apple. Go and look out at deer. Oh, I like that. You've got kind of nature in the background. Leap for joy. Yeah, it's not something that happens often, but when you do, like, appreciate it. I agree with that. Put your favorite song on and go for a walk. Yeah, something that will pump you up or relax you or help you to focus. Good. Storks. Awesome. Sit in a dark, quiet room with your eyes closed. Yeah. That whole desensitizing. All right, now you have 30 minutes. This is big. 30 minutes. Now, a lot of the times for 30 minutes, we're going to use that time to go and get lunch. Or maybe if somebody cancels, I'm not going to always do this, but I'm going to have at least one big break throughout the day. What are some of those things? So drink some tea, walk to the pond on your property, get some water, take a quick nap, go to the coffee shop, go for a pizza, canoodle. I like that, canoodling with your pets. Or a loved one. You may have a loved one too. Eat and then go for a walk, take a nap, write 7 things that you are grateful for during the day. Oh, even hearing these things just lift me up. So here are mine. If I was to I kind of wrote out some of the things that I would put on my list. When I have 1 minute, one of the things that I try to do more of is drink more water. I'm not drinking enough water because I sit down and I'll fill up a great big jug and it sits there for the entire day. I cannot be a sipper. So I need to be kind of a gulper. I need to go and fill up a great big glass and drink it down, and then I know I have it. 5 minutes. My 5 minute go-to right now is music because I don't listen to music while I'm at work. And so if somebody cancels or says they're going to be late, I'll turn on my favorite song. It's usually an AC/DC pump me up kind of thing, especially in the middle of the afternoon. Now, don't judge my music choices. You get to pick whatever you would like. 10 minutes. If I have 10 minutes, that's when I'm likely going to take my dogs outside, get a light break. They can have their pee break. I'm going to have a light break. I might grab something to eat while I'm at it and kind of do all of those things. And then if I do have 30 minutes, generally that will be kind of a lunch break kind of thing. But the other thing that I've started doing is watching funny videos. I decided I wanted more humor in my life, more fun in my life. And so I've been looking at different kinds of videos that I can watch. And some of them are the old classic black and whites, the I Love Lucy's, to some of the more modern stuff, the kind of the TikTok kind of videos. So again, finding those things. I'm like a Family Feud I have on here. Perfect. Hydrotherapy, go take a shower in the middle of the day, have a bath. And so you're going to have your list. What are the things that are meaningful for you? What are the things that are going to help you feel rejuvenated and pull some energy back in? They don't change the situation, but they help to bring energy back in to your day. Number 5, micro experiences. Some of these things that we talked about would fall under what we call micro experiences. We get caught up in the lure of the hustle culture, and, it's harder, faster, stronger every single day. But what are those things that you want to enjoy? What is it that you want to experience? What does the best version of you look like? We talk about being hungry for more, but hungry for more meaning, not necessarily for more to-dos or more kind of success kind of thing. What's meaningful for me? And so I want to have a picture of who I want to be. And so I think about, how I've been over the last couple of months even, and where I've gotten grumpy, where I haven't been present, where when I'm at home with my family, I'm thinking about my business. That's not the best version of me. So what does the best version of Beverly, how does she talk? What does she do? What is she involved in? You got to believe that you can make these changes. And so when we're here today, it's you got to believe that life can be different. Because if you don't believe that it can be different, then you're going to get sucked into that hustle culture and that burnout. I believe that I can be the best version of me. I don't need to be a perfect version, but I can aim for that best version. So what is that? For me, it's doing more of the things that I love and less of the things that I loathe. Now, I hate doing my taxes. That doesn't mean I have to stop doing my taxes. You know, revenue, the government, they want that done, right? So that doesn't, but one of the things that I do is I now book a date night at the end of that day. I do it on a Saturday because I need a kind of a full day of concentration to get it done, to organize it and get it all ready. It puts me usually in a bad mood. So don't talk to me during that time. But that's when, I'll book it. And when it's done, I close it up, I sent it off. My husband and I will have date night. I have something to look forward to on a day that's not a great day. So when I talk about maximizing more of the things that I love, I need to bring more of those in. I want to make sure that I'm looking forward to something every day. And I want to minimize those activities that, that don't fulfill me. Doesn't mean I have to go and ride roller coasters around the country. I love roller coasters, but that's not the goal. It's to find those moments. My flowers bring me joy. I was away for 2 weeks and I totally missed my not hydrangeas, my peonies in bloom. And I was sad because they bring me joy, and I just kind of saw the dead end of them. And but my lilies are in bloom right now. That brings me joy. So happiness, it's more than an emotion. And I think that, we talk about that, we see the memes and the posters, but it really is. Happiness is what we say and what we do. It's, how we feel and how satisfied are we. It's about, bringing this all together. When they've done research, now, you may have seen some of this research that says 10, 50, 40. Those were not exact numbers, but what it says is that a good majority of our happiness, actually, I'll go the other way. A small amount of our happiness is about the circumstances that we're in. Are we healthy, unhealthy? Are we rich? Are we poor? Do we have a lot of friends? Do we have few friends? Only a small portion of our happiness is determined by that. A big portion, most of our happiness is actually determined by hereditary. The environment that we're in with, like family. So, did you have happy parents? Because we learn from that. That becomes our set point for our happiness. And then 40% is what we can control. Our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors. And so thinking about that, well, if my thoughts, my actions, and my behaviors control my happiness, I want to be a lot more purposeful about my thoughts, my behaviors, and my actions. Happiness is what you say and what you do. And so am I talking like a happy person? And I find, there are days where I get sucked into that negativity and my conversations are all about the difficult and the negative. That's not what a happy person does. Doesn't mean that I need to be Pollyanna and just only talk about the things that are good, but I got to watch that I'm not getting sucked into that negativity. The other thing that we often get sucked into is thinking about, I'm going to be happy when I get this project done. I'm going to be happy when we get to that, that first, 6 figures. I'm going to be happy when I make it to 1 million. I'm going to be happy when I make it to 25 million. I'm going to be happy when I retire. I'm going to be happy when I have kids. It's not about out there. It's about right now. So what could you change to be happier? This is one of the posters that I've seen, and the unfortunate part is that they put the period in the wrong spot, because often you'll see on those posters and those memes that happiness is not a destination or an endpoint. And they often put a period right there, but that's not the most valuable part, because happiness is not a destination or an endpoint, but it's the ability to be fully engaged in loving and caring for ourselves. Number one. And for the people that we surround ourselves with. It's what you say and what you do that matters when it comes to happiness. So the antidote to burnout isn't necessarily doing less. I'm not saying that you need to change the way that you do your business, but it is about being more purposeful. It's about focusing in on every activity and the impact that it's going to have. You know, are you being purposeful? Are you making those decisions? Another word that I really like that goes with that is, are you savoring? Savoring is not a word that we use very often, but it is about noticing and appreciating and being caught up in the moment. My pets do that for me. Going out with my husband does that for me. My flowers does that for me. You know, I'm savoring. So think about how you savor the absolute best meal. Are you savoring life in general? Not every moment. Again, if you think about if you had your best meal every day, it would lose its importance. But it is about noticing those things that are important. What do you think? What is the number one personality trait that promotes happiness? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? What is the number one personality trait that promotes happiness? What do you think? Lisa, you did a great job there. Lisa came up with the answer. It is gratitude. Gratitude and being grateful is the number one personality trait when it comes to happiness. Top 3 practices that will make you happier: gratitude, generosity, and self-care. So how are you bringing more gratitude into life? I love somebody had said, writing down, the things that you're grateful for at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, or when you have 5 minutes of time. Gratitude, generosity, and self-care. So make it a practice of bringing more gratitude in to life. It's supposed to always, for me, I find when I'm becoming more negative and more difficult, I forget to be more grateful. If I'm purposeful about being grateful, the negativity subsides. All right, number 6, out of our keys, it is developing those supports. And I love that many of you have been putting in, family and reaching out and supportive people around you. So who would you go to? I want you to think about this. You can even write these down on a piece of paper, the names. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Who would you go to? Who would you go to if you had a personal problem that you wanted to talk about? Who would you go to? And I want you to put this on a piece of paper. You don't need to add them all into the chat. I want you, because some of you may not want to share some of these things. So think about that. Who would you go to if you had a personal problem? Who would you go to if you were confused about making plans for the future? So if you were trying to figure out the future, who would you go to? Who would you see, or who would you want to spend time with if you wanted to go to a movie or a concert, or share an interest in a sport or a hobby? Who would you reach out to? Who would you go to if you were feeling lonely or depressed? Who would you go to if you were feeling lonely or depressed? Who would be the first person that you would turn to in a crisis situation? Who would be the first person that you would turn to in a crisis situation? Who would be the first person that you would go to share a success with? Who would you go to if you wanted to vent or blow off steam? And finally, who makes you feel good and just gives you a lift? Now, I love this. I'm seeing in here a husband, friends, parents, always. It depends, but that just means I have lots of people that I can do this with. That is a great answer, because sometimes we're overloading 1 or 2 people. Our support network has often gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, especially as we kick off our business or we get more involved in work. And the problem is we don't have enough people in our support circle. It's great to have a couple of people that you can absolutely rely on, parents, husband, friends, but do you have enough people in that support circle? what does that look like? And I think, as we move forward, really understanding who is it that you can talk to? Who is it that you can vent to? Who is it that you can ask for help from? And that is one of the absolute values of the SBDC, is because you have this group of people that you can talk to about business strategies, about business challenges, about your fears and your successes. We need enough people. And it's not necessarily quantity, but it's also quantity and quality, right? They need to be both, because you can have one person. Again, I could rely on my husband, but what if he's not available? What if something happens to him? What if, things change? Then what am I left with? So we need enough people in our support circle that we can talk to, that we can vent to, that we can, ask for help from, who understand, who get us. I said right at the beginning that I am the president of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. That is one of the groups that I'm involved in that absolutely helps me with my business. These are people who understand the speaking business. And so I have some colleagues within there who I talk to, who I vent to, who I can ask for help from, along with my husband and family. Let's see, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing lots of things come through. Depends. Lots of people. Grandchildren are on there. You need quantity, no need for quality. Oops, I'm getting mixed up there. I think it's similar to circle graphs, because you can do it for others and vice versa. Good. Don't agree. Again, at least I'm not quite sure with what that was referring to, so that's okay. But again, quality and quantity. We don't need thousands. It's not about likes on social media. It's not about the friends on Facebook. It's people that you can actually rely on and talk to and share with. Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing here, it's very tough to deal with some of these issues when you are widowed. And so we do need to find other people. And it's hard to gather these people up sometimes, especially when you're in the midst of sorrow. And so we want to have friends, and we want to keep connected to those people, those friends who are important, and not let some of them go by the wayside, and then realize that we don't have anybody in that. Like I said, the SBDC, those professional people that can answer questions, and absolutely having trust when it comes to that. So it is about this mindset of connection, especially if you are creating a workplace and you have people who report to you, and you as the entrepreneur, as the leader, are you creating a culture of connectedness? Doesn't mean we need to know each other's business. It means that I know what makes you tick. I know how to ask questions. I know that I can trust you. I know that I can reach out to you for help, or if I have questions. How are you creating this mindset of connection? Because that mindset of connection is actually what we call our tend and befriend response. And it's actually stronger than our stress response, our fight and flight response. And it can help us deal with changes and challenges and chaos. So who do you talk to? Who do you ask for help from? Who can you share your stories with? Those are the people that we also need to make the connections. Women's clubs, huge, absolutely. And we need to choose wisely. And I go back to some of the comments in the chat. We absolutely need to choose wisely. You want to protect yourself from people who are the wrong people for you to be connected with. Those ones who suck the life energy from you. Those ones who put you down in order to lift themselves up. We want to reach out and find the cheerleaders, the people who are going to celebrate our accomplishments, who can help provide perspective, who can help be that sounding board, who share our values. So we want to make sure that we're reaching out to the right people. All right. Key number 7 is about hope, which often we don't talk enough about. We've actually been told that hope is not a business strategy, but I absolutely disagree. Because when we are hopeless, that leads to burnout. And we know a lot of people are in that despair, the sense that things are not going to get any better. That just this is the way that the world is, that there is nobody who understands. That hopelessness stops us from being able to move forward, but hope allows us to be able to step through the change, the challenge, the chaos, to get to the other side. And we know from research, so this is just not a feeling. It's not this kind of, pie high in the sky kind of thing, or whatever the saying is. We know from research that out of all of the different character traits and their ability to predict our resiliency, hope was the most significant factor in the face of change, challenge, and trauma. That sense of hope, more so than grit, more so than gratitude, more so than any of the other ones that are on that list. Now, during the pandemic, I had this poster on my wall, on my desk, and it was from Desmond Tutu, and it says, "Hope is being able to see the light despite the darkness." When we can't see where we're going, hope is being able to step forward anyways. Yeah, I agree. The world is, if we let it, it can suck that hope right away from us. All right. So what is hope? Because it's easy for me to say to have it, but what does it mean to have hope? And so there's three parts that come together to build that sense of hope. Hope is being able to, it starts by having goals. You need to have a big picture in mind. And as entrepreneurs, many of us have that big picture of where we're going, what we want our life to be like, who we want to be. And so being able to bring it into focus, to have that kind of sitting there for you to be able to rely on. Hope is being able to have energy. And so if you are not taking care of yourself, then you're not going to have the energy to be able to reach those goals. We need to be able to figure things out. And so the third part of this is about being able to be flexible and be really good at problem solving. Hope is about having ideas. It's about being able to go, find different ways of getting to that goal, because sometimes the way is going to be blocked. We know that just like a renovation, that we never go from here to there, that we go through all of these different changes and challenges. And so if we can't go straight to it, can we go over it? Can we go under it? Can we go around it? How are we going to get there? And that also takes energy. Hope is about having a vision. It's about taking care of ourselves, and it's about being flexible and being really good at problem solving in order to be able to move forward. Hope needs strategy. Hope needs creativity. Hope needs energy and motivation. It needs direction. I love this. It says, hope stands for hold on, possibility exists. Let's see. So I'm coming to the end of my time. I know we wrap up at 1:30 here. Use hope as a strategy. Be the voice of hope for the people around you. Especially if you have team and colleagues, be that voice of hope, be that cheerleader. Say, hey, we've done it before, we can do it again. This is where we're going, and I know that we can get there. Because sometimes that's all we can do is hold on to hope. If you want to see my video on hope, you can search my name in YouTube or use that QR code, and that will absolutely take you to where that video is housed. All right. So what did we cover today? We talked about priorities. We talked about making sure that we have boundaries and that we focus in on self-care, that we find ways of bringing more energy in, that we look for ways of bringing joy and those micro experiences that we can hold on to, reaching out and connecting with the people around us who get us, who are cheerleaders, who can hold that and shine that light for us and be able to step forward into hope. If you have questions, you can throw them into the chat box. I hope I've given you some things to think about today, though, as you look at those 7 keys, a way of being able to balance off when it comes to hope. So throw your questions. I will stay for as long as I can. What I want you to do is if you have a moment, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to see more of. You can use this evaluation form to do that. It will let me know how to tailor this for you as you go forward. I know some of you have to go right at the bottom of the hour. Absolutely do that. Don't let me keep you, but I hope that this was a valuable use of your time. And thank you to those that are saying thank you there. Let's see. The previous slide with the QR code, I think you're looking for this one. So let me throw that up there. Whoa, where did it go? Right there. I will put that there. Awesome. Hi, Uzma. I'm going to do my stop share here.
Yep.
I will pull up the Q&A box if I can. Let me see if I can find it to see if there's any questions.
No questions that I'm seeing on my end, but if we have any quick questions that anyone would like to share, please go ahead. It is 1:30, but we can stay for a couple more minutes if our audience is willing to. But before we even get to that, Beverly, thank you so much. Great job as always. A lot of useful information as always too. Something to keep in mind for all of us, whether we have small businesses or not. Um, Definitely some, key tips to apply in all areas of life. So yeah, thank you for that.
You are so welcome. And just as a reminder, you do have the handout. The handout has the slides at the end of it. And so you'll be able to capture all of that information there. And if you do have any questions at any point that we don't get to today, you can always reach out to me. I am absolutely open to answering questions. So just reach out to me. You'll have my contact information and I will carry on a conversation with you that way as well.
Yep, thank you very much. It doesn't look like we'll be having questions. So what I will do is I will just share my screen. But before again, Beverly, thank you so much. To our audience, just a couple of reminders that if you would like to receive the slides that that Beverly just shared, then definitely fill out the survey. I know, so right now you have two surveys. You have the survey that Beverly would like feedback on and feedback for us too. And those links have been shared in the chat. So just go in the chat, look for the link, it'll be shared again, and fill that out. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our website. If we had more time, I would have definitely shown the website and go through my little ritual to see.
Sorry.
No. Please don't. It worked out. So that is where we're at. Now let's see. Okay, so upcoming webinars, Thursday. On July 25th, we have unlock over $2 million in SBIR CTR grants for your tech innovations. Happening on the same time as today as well, July 25th, 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. If you are a tech savvy engineer, developer, entrepreneur, if this applies to you or your family members, friends, anyone that you know, associates, then definitely refer this to them. And with that, we have helped more than 15,000 plus small businesses grow. Our services, no cost small business counseling, training and events starting at $0, exclusive small business resources. Thank you all so much for attending. Thank you all so much for your participation. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to having you in the next webinar. And Beverly, we look forward to having you again as well, hopefully in the near future. Thank you.
Wonderful. So much. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye. Take care.